Hi, my name is David Meniane from carparts.com. Today is a special edition of The Engine. Ask me anything. Tina, let's go.
All right, David. Favorite business book?
That's an easy one. Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink. Can I give you a couple more?
Sure.
Obstacle is the Way, Ryan Holiday. Playing to Win, and Delivering Happiness. These are my 4 favorites.
How about favorite podcast?
Jocko Podcast, Sam Harris, Sean Carroll, Lex Friedman. 4 different ones.
If you could have your own podcast, what would you talk about?
That's a good one. I don't know if I'm interesting enough. Probably corporate culture and how to build a culture of performance and excellence.
All right, favorite type of music?
Classics. Elvis, Sinatra, Bon Jovi.
What would you say would be your favorite song?
Wanted, Dead or Alive, Bon Jovi.
Can you sing a little bit?
No, absolutely not. Count me out.
At what point in your life did you realize that you would and could be as successful as you are today?
I don't think like that. I just think like happy with what I'm doing and where I am. Great marriage, great job, great friends, great team, great business. If that's the definition of success, then I don't know, but I love it.
What would you say was the best business advice you ever received, and then how have you actually applied that into your life?
I don't think it's advice. It's just like a philosophy of just like getting after it, not quitting, walking with a purpose, crushing the enemy, looking for the dying quail and going after it. So I don't think it's one person in particular. It's just a personal philosophy of not quitting.
Who has been the most influential person in your career?
Probably 5 people. My 2 grandfathers, who were both in the military, and then my father, who was a genius at sales, operations, and finance. My mother, who was a merchant, inventory forecasting expert, and merchandiser. And my wife, who's been supporting me since day one, who's been putting my needs and my ambition before hers. And I'm just extremely lucky and grateful. I couldn't have done it without these 5 people.
How did you meet your wife?
Love of my life. Our fathers were best friends, and my mom met her mom on a train when they were 16 years old. So we've known each other since we were babies.
Wow. When did you get married?
I got married 15 years ago.
15 amazing years
15 incredible years. I used to say once you win the lottery, you stop playing.
And I heard you're having another baby?
I am having another baby, yes, another baby girl, which is what I wanted.
And before your firstborn, Bella, you had another first baby. Do you want to tell us a little about him?
Yes, my dog, Jack. Maltipoo, he's 9 years old. He's the love of my life too, and he sleeps under the covers between me and my wife.
How do you balance family and work?
So my friend Ryan likes to say it's not work-life balance, it's work-life integration. I integrate the 2 of them and we make it work. My wife and I make it work. A lot of times the work life takes priority because of my job, and when I can, my family life takes priority. It's more of an art than a science. Sometimes it works, and sometimes I get a slap on the wrist and I have to overcompensate at home.
So you are a Trojan.
I am.
That's where you met Lev.
Unfortunately.
How was Lev when you met him?
So it's interesting. When I met Lev, he was exactly the same as he is today. He hasn't changed at all. He's been really consistent. He was sharp. He was funny. He was nice. He was fun. Always knew that he wanted to do what he's doing now. First time I met him, we talked about our futures. I think I was 20 years old. He was 21. He said, I'm going to be CEO of a public company. That was 20 years ago. He's been very, very consistent, and he hasn't changed. He's gotten more responsibilities and more successful, but he's always been the same guy.
So going into where you are now, what is the most important thing you've learned as a first-time public company COO and CFO?
What I've learned as a first-time public company guy is it doesn't matter how it was done before. What matters is doing it right at that particular moment based on the facts that are presented to you.
You know, you have, almost a dozen direct reports. How has that been? Different personalities, different styles. How do you deal with that?
It's been great. I always say, it's hard for me to manage kind of more junior employees, but I know how to manage world-class talent. And what we've done is we've invested in the best of the best. And sure, it's 12 people, but it's 12 of the best in the world in whatever area they manage. So it's not really management, it's support. It's being there when they need me, but most of the time it's getting out of the way so that they can do what they do.
What would you say has been the most emotionally difficult part about your job?
I think there's two situations, but I'll focus on one. When the pandemic started and we were running at 100 miles an hour, we had, I think, 1,000 people in our distribution centers. And the announcement came in of a worldwide pandemic, and I started thinking, what happens to all these people? Safety is always my number one priority. When the pandemic started, I got really nervous about our people. That was like an emotional roller coaster. We weren't in a good financial situation, but that was secondary to the safety of our people. And I know there's a lot of people that talk about that, but for me, I really mean it, because it's it hit me hard. What happens to all these people?
And on the flip side, what would you say has been the most emotionally rewarding part about your job?
The team, building such an incredible team. I've never heard or seen a team like this. Everyone who works with us is just the best of the best at what they do. It's excellence, it's professionalism, it's discipline. It's a fun group of people. They're actually really smart, but they're really fun to be around. It's my second family.
What have you learned about life that you wish you could have told yourself?
One thing I learned is that it takes longer than you think it's going to take. I was really young and ambitious and driven, probably the same way I am today, but it just takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. What I learned is that an overnight success takes 10, sometimes 20 years. Whatever you define success as, you just have to be patient, and it's not one of my virtues.
No. So let's talk a little bit about the past 2 years, because it's been a bit crazy. How would you say you've applied your business philosophies during the pandemic?
Probably the same way I did before and the same way I'm going to do after. It's a set of principles that I live by. It's motivation. You go through obstacles. Obstacles change, but the mentality stays the same. Financial discipline, operational excellence, focusing on the customer. We did it before, we did it during, and we're going to do it long after.
And then with our, if I don't mind saying myself, impressive growth, do you see carparts.com eventually bringing logistics in-house, similar to what Amazon did a few years ago?
My guess is some version of it over the long term. We're big believers in vertical integration, kind of controlling our own destiny from sourcing and innovation all the way down to customer experience and helping the customer get back on the road. We've used a number of strategy for last mile delivery. We have a great relationship with FedEx. That's not going to change. But there are pockets of opportunities where last mile delivery may become attractive.
And then given the growing EV market, do we have specific plans on how we'll be supporting the change and adjusting to the market?
100%. I think for the last 2 years, we've been very tactical at turning the business around, but we're also very mindful of what's going to happen to the market in the next 5 to 10 years. EVs and hybrids are here to stay, and we're starting to make big investments in that market now. So think Tesla, but also Prius, and also some of the new brands that are coming out. I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot more EV parts on our website. And if I can make a plug, carparts.com/EV.
How do you think about our stock price? Because obviously as a publicly traded company, it's always part of the discussion, but how do you think about it?
I'm always nervous about giving the right answer. In reality, I don't. There are days where I don't look at the stock price. I always thought that if something big or small happens that I need to know about, the team will tell me about it. So there are days where I'll wake up and look at the stock price. It's not my primary concern. My primary concern is let's build an exceptional business, let's service the customers, and eventually the stock price will take care of itself.
So you made a promise well, when we came on board, we were in, the single digits stock price. You made a promise.
I tend to make a lot of promises.
You did actually make a couple, but let's just focus on one. You made a promise that at $8, you were going to get PRTS tattooed across your chest. And I think the world deserves to see that tattoo if you'd like to show everyone.
So I haven't done the tattoo, but I do have permission from my wife to have PRTS tattooed on my chest or my arm. But I will go ahead and do it. I just need a little more time. I'm getting psychologically ready for my first tattoo, but I'm going to do it.
What has been the most challenging part of hosting your own interview show?
The critical feedback from my executive producer. It's a lot harder than it looks. We have a great team that makes me look good. I think people don't realize that the amount of work that it takes to put something like this together, just the organization, the logistics, like preparing questions, preparing me. It's been fun. It's been a lot more work than I expected, but I love it.
What's one thing that people don't know about you?
Been a vegetarian for 9 years, and I don't own my house, I don't own my furniture, and I don't own my cars. So I rent everything.
If you could have any other job, not this one, not anything at Car Parts, what would you do?
So I've always said, if I ever do something completely different than what I'm doing now, it's either going to be I'll go to medical school or I'll be a tennis instructor. I've always thought like maybe in a second life I'll go to medical school just for fun. I've always thought it was interesting. And then tennis instructors because they just look cool.
I like to throw lawyer into that hat for you. I think that would be appropriate.
So funny story about the lawyer. So when Lev and I were going to college, so it was during undergrad, we both decided we were going to be lawyers. And so we both studied for the LSAT. We both took the LSAT. We both applied to law school and got accepted. And we both decided together not to go.
Wow. What will you do after carparts.com?
For me, there's no, I can't see past Car Parts. I'm fully invested in what we're doing here, fully invested in the team, obviously fully invested financially. I'm here for the next few decades. We have a lot of runway. This is a $500 billion industry. Our run rate is 600 million. We got plenty of work to do. So I'll focus on what I'm doing now, and whatever comes next, comes next.
And then we do have a question from a very special person. Your mom sent us a question. She wanted to know if you're going to go to dinner tomorrow.
If I get an invitation from my mom, I'm always going, yes.
Your mom is actually a phenomenal cook.
100% the best cook I know after my wife and my sister.
Yeah, you're surrounded by a lot of women who
yes.
feed you well.
Very lucky, yes. So I'm coming to dinner on Friday night, Mom.